Welcome, everyone. Thank you all for joining us today. We will get going in just a minute or two. Still have some people filing in. Alrighty, everyone. Well, welcome. Thank you all for joining our webinar today. Good afternoon. My name is Casey Johnson, and I'm the Community Engagement Coordinator and GIS Coordinator for the James River Association. This webinar is an effort through the Upper and Middle James Consortium. That's a collaborative that has a mission to support a network of partners to raise awareness, build workforce capacity, increase implementation of riparian forest buffers across the Upper and Middle James watersheds throughout collaboration. I want to first go ahead and thank our three presenters that are willing to share their information about their programs with us today. We're very excited to have you with us here. We have Anne-Marie Roberts. She is with the James River Association, and she'll be sharing some information on the James River Buffer Program. We have Melissa Kelly with the USDA Farm Service Agency. She'll be sharing information on the Conservation Reserve Program, CRP, and the Conservation Reserve Enhancement Program, CREP. And lastly, we have Kelly Snoddy. She is with the Peter San Francisco Soil and Water District. She will be sharing information about the VA Conservation Assistance Program, VCAP, and the VA Agricultural Cost Share, which is VAX. Each presenter will have a bit of time to share their presentation, and then at the end, they'll have a little bit of time to answer any questions you may have. You can go ahead and throw those in the chat or just take yourself off mute and ask. After that, I will go ahead and share some funding resources that we have available on the consortium website. I'll drop a link in the chat to our website if you are curious in the meantime. And then we can go ahead and welcome Anne-Marie Roberts. You can go ahead and share your screen and share your information.
All right, thanks, Casey. Let's see. Okay. Can't get over to it. The thing's in the way. Okay, the little banner's in the way. Well, let me stop for a minute. Maybe I'll have you share it, Casey. I'm sorry. Oh, here it is. I got it. I wonder why the banner keeps going in the way of it. I can't get the.
I think you can hit options and then hide it. Hide the panel.
You can do view options, hide video panel. Did that help?
I think I'll just have you share
okay,
it.
That's fine. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
So just stop share. Okay.
All right. Let me get that open for you. 1 second. All righty.
All right, thanks, Casey.
No problem.
Yep. And okay, will I be able to advance it on my own? Or okay. All right, thank you all for having me today. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the James River Buffer Program. It was launched in 2019, and it's funded through the Virginia Environmental Endowment. This is a picture of one of our first projects that was installed in the fall of 2019 in collaboration with the Thomas Jefferson Soil and Water District. Okay, next. So our focus is restoring that native vegetation along the waterways that has many functions and co-benefits to humans and wildlife and the environment. So these riparian restoration projects help shade the stream. They help control erosion along the stream banks. They build the wildlife corridors, forest corridors. They provide sanctuaries for people to rest and hike and just be in nature. They also have leaf litter that drops into the water that feeds our aquatic life and organisms. So many, many benefits, as well as filtering runoff. So that's our focus for the James River Buffer Program. Next. So our geography is in the upper and the middle James. So when we launched our program originally in 2019, the focus area was just the middle James. And in 2021, the program added on the upper James. Next. So in collaboration with a lot of partners, the Chesapeake Bay Foundation focuses on the upper James watershed. And in the middle James, we have the James River Association and the Department of Forestry. We also collaborate with our some of our pilot districts, the Peter Francisco Soil and Water, Thomas Jefferson, and Monacan. They were our initial partners in this program, and we have recently welcomed the Piedmont Soil and Water District. So that would be kind of the southern part of the middle Eastern James. So if you're interested in our program, we have some eligibility requirements. One of them being, do you have a waterway on your property? It could be a spring, it could be a creek, a river. All waterways are eligible. So we try to focus on both the upper and then the lower watersheds of the river system. And are you interested in restoring the riparian edge to improve water quality or wildlife habitat? If you have a space, like an open space in the canopy or on the ground to plant hardwoods along the waterway, at least 35 feet or greater, and is your property actually in the middle James or upper James? So our application process is pretty simple. JamesRiverBuffers.org. So you'd go on there, you can scroll around to see if your property is in the eligible areas. And then from there, you would get an email response, and then a field staff would respond, and we would schedule a site visit if you're eligible. Okay, next. So what's covered? So part of the whole thing, it's a turnkey program, so there's no out-of-pocket expenses, so 100% of the costs are covered. We include the support for the design of the project. We would do site preparation according to what the site actually needs. We provide the seedlings and the shelters and the labor to install it, or sometimes we install with volunteers and staff. And then one of the key elements to this program is that we provide 3 years of establishment maintenance. So that's very helpful for getting these seedlings established and nurtured for the first critical 3 years. So we start with site visits and develop a plan. So we do an initial site visit. So it'd be either me or my colleague Joey. And we would go out there and we would do a site visit, determine what's needed on the property, work with the landowners' objectives, and then develop a plan that fits both the program and the landowners' objectives. So the site preparation phase looks different according to the project site. So some of them don't need any site prep, some need mowing, some need invasive species treatments, and some need as far as forestry mulching if their project is very, very infested with invasive species. We also cover the project materials. So we use 1 to 2 year old bare root seedlings. And we also do put a shelter or in a stake on each sapling. And that protects the tree from vole or deer browse and damage. And some of them we do mats, but it just depends on the project site. So the project installation can go two ways depending on the scale. And a lot of our projects, probably about close to 90%, are put in through contractors. And then we do put some in through staff and volunteers if they're smaller scale or if the landowner wants to get involved. So those are always fun tree planting days for volunteers to get involved in the tree planting. And just also, we have 2 planting seasons. So we plant in the spring and then the fall of each year. So those, we have 2 options. This is kind of the trajectory of what the buffer project will look like. So at the initial install, you look like you have a tube farm. You know, it's a lot of tubes and shelters just sticking out of the ground. But by year 2, it starts to soften, and by 3, the trees are really leaping. So they're sleeping the first year, creeping along the second, putting down the roots. And then the 3rd year, they're leaping out of the shelters. And so our program requires a 15-year agreement to keep the Riparian buffer project in place. So that is the minimum time. We hope into perpetuity, but 15 is the minimum. Next. In that crucial part, the establishment maintenance phase for 3 years will support the landowner. It depends on what the site needs again. So typically the project will get a conservation mowing, which you can see on the right-hand side. So it's not a finish mow, but it's a conservation mow. And then invasive species treatment and a spot spray with an herbicide around the tree shelter. In the fall, we do survival checks and do any shelter stake maintenance. And then in the spring, as you can see on the left-hand side, we're replanting seedlings that are dead. So, and this is just kind of a common maintenance activity and what we do for each project for those 3 years, and then provide guidance for the landowner when they're phasing out of those 3 years. So there's a lot of input on the maintenance part of things. The initial install is the fun part, and then of course the maintenance is always the part that gets a little more complicated. But that's pretty much all I have, is just an overview of the buffer program. I don't know where we are on time, but that's what I had.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. Thank you for sharing. We can now open it up to questions. We also have Anne-Marie's contact information on the screen if you want to write that down or contact her, but we will be sending out that after the webinar is finished. So we are now ready to open it up to questions. Feel free to unmute yourself or drop your question in the chat box. We do have one. I'm curious about what invasive treatment might entail.
Yeah, it just depends on the site. So say you have a major infestation of autumn olive, for example, we might have to go in and mulch it down with a machinery and then do a subsequent spraying the next 3 years. And site prep, we usually do mostly mowing. We do sometimes invasive species management if it's completely taking over the whole planting area. But if it's just on the fringe edge, we would capture that in the next 3 growing seasons. So it's really site specific. We've had everything from mowing to mulching it all down before we plant.
Thank you, Anne Marie. We have another question. Are contractors hired to do the maintenance and site prep?
Yes, so we have a subcontract with Conservation Services, but we also use some other local contractors to do the site preparation and the maintenance. Now, if they're a smaller scale project, we sometimes use our Riparian Stewards program. They're volunteers that are trained to do the work, and then a staff would be point of contact and provide the guidance. But for the most part, the contractors are doing the work.
Wonderful. Another question, is there a deadline to request a site visit, or can we request anytime?
Okay, so we have a rolling application, so there's no deadline. Sometimes we have internal deadlines if it's getting a little close to a planting season and we're, our capacity is full for that season. But you can apply any time of the year, and then a field staff would just directly contact you and schedule a site visit.
Lovely. Thank you, Anne Marie. Do we have any other questions before we move on to our next presentation? Nope. Alrighty. Well, thank you all for your questions. Thank you, Anne Marie, for presenting information about the James River Buffer Program. I will now pass it on to Melissa Kelly to share information about your program.
All right, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay. Okay, so good afternoon. My name is Melissa Kelly, and I am the County Executive Director of the Rockbridge Allegheny Bath Farm Service Agency, and we are located in the Lexington, Virginia USDA Service Center. So some of the conservation programs that we offer are the General Conservation Reserve Program, the Conservation Reserve Enhancement Program, known as CREP, and the Grassland CRP. And I'm going to talk a little bit about each in more detail. So CRP is one of the largest private lands conservation programs in the U.S., and it helps producers better manage their operations while conserving natural resources. By enrolling in CRP, producers are improving water quality, reducing soil erosion, and restoring habitat for wildlife. Farmers and ranchers who enroll in the program receive a yearly rental payment for voluntarily establishing long-term resource-conserving plant species, such as approved grasses or trees, known as cover, to control soil erosion, improve water quality, and develop wildlife habitat or marginally productive agricultural lands. So CRP is a voluntary land conservation program, and the goal of general CRP is to reestablish valuable land cover to help improve water quality, prevent soil erosion, and reduce loss of wildlife habitat. And FSA contracts for land enrolled in general CRP are either 10 or 15 years in length. So we highlight these three areas when producers ask about or are considering CRP. CRP could be a way for them to turn non-productive land into some sort of value. It's a way for them to support and improve wildlife habitats, including pollinator habitats. And it's a way to reduce soil erosion, increase their soil health, and protect air and water quality. So why is it good for a farmer in their operation, and what are the ag benefits? It can improve average yields, address problem areas within fields, and you're not required to enroll entire fields, and it reduces the conservation compliance risks. So the program is administered by the Farm Service Agency with technical support provided by Natural Resources Conservation Service, our sister agency within USDA, state forestry, local soil and water conservation districts, and other non-federal partners. So what is General CRP sign-up? A sign-up is offered each year for General CRP, and it is a competitive offer process during a selected period of time. Each producer is ranked against other offers nationally, and only offers ranked high enough will be accepted for enrollment. So eligible producers must have owned the property for at least 12 months or show that they did not purchase the property simply for the purpose of placing it in CRP. Eligible land for general CRP must have been planted or considered planted to an agricultural commodity for 4 of the 6 previous crop years, or crop years from 2012 to 2017, and is physically and legally capable of being planted. For example, if the land has an easement that precludes it from being planted to a commodity, it would not be eligible. Certain marginal pasture land that may be devoted to riparian buffers, wildlife buffers, or wetland buffers are also eligible. So now we'll talk more about the Conservation Reserve Enhancement Program, CREP, which is an enhancement under CRP. And this program differs in that it is a continuous sign-up, does not have ranking, and land does not have to be cropland. In Virginia, the priorities are water quality and wildlife habitat. And priorities and practices vary from state to state, but the water quality and wildlife habitat are the priorities for the Virginia CREP program. So the Conservation Reserve Enhancement Program is part of CRP, the country's largest largest private land conservation program, administered by FSA. So CREP targets specific state or national conservation concerns, and federal funds are supplemented with non-federal funds to address those concerns. In Virginia, we're addressing the Chesapeake Bay. So in exchange for removing environmentally sensitive land from production and establishing permanent resource conserving plant species, farmers and ranchers are paid an annual rental payment along with other federal and non-federal incentives as applicable per CREP agreement. Participation is voluntary, and the contract period is typically 10 to 15 years. So CREP also has a continuous sign-up. Offers are not ranked because it is on the most sensitive lands and does not have to meet cropping history. So CREP is available in all counties in Virginia, provides a sign-up incentive payment, 50% cost share on practices up to the caps. And once practices are complete and after the trees are successful for like a riparian forest buffer, you would receive a practice incentive payment and then annual rental payments for each year for the life of the contract. In Rockbridge, for example, annual rental payments are $88 an acre, and most counties are in that around $90 range. In addition to those benefits, the state partners with us and then provides money towards practices and also for rental as well. So here again, the partnerships and rental rates vary by county and state, so reach out to your local office that would cover your area for more information. So if in accordance with the NRCS plan, potential components may receive cost share. Some of the components include fencing to exclude livestock from the area, but does not include perimeter fencing. A water source such as a well, trough, water line, pumping plant, and trees. And some of the eligible practices in Virginia are filter strips that are planted adjacent to streams, wetlands, lakes, and ponds to filter runoff. And this practice reduces erosion, provides habitat and corridors for wildlife, and sequesters carbon. And next are riparian buffers or trees that are planted along the same water bodies to improve water quality, cool the water, trap sediment, filter nutrients, stabilize the banks, and sequester carbon. Then we have the wetland restoration that restores former or creates new wetlands. The benefits of this practice include holding runoff to prevent downstream flooding, filtering sediment, nutrients, and chemicals, and creates wildlife habitat to include amphibians, birds, and diverse plants. So finally, we have the marginal pastureland wildlife buffers for landowners that have marginal pastureland next to streams, wetlands, or other water body types. And this practice provides wildlife habitat and water quality benefits as well. So finally, I'm going to talk about the grasslands CRP program. So what is grassland CRP? So with grasslands, Landowners and operators can protect grasslands, including rangeland and pastureland, while maintaining the areas as grazing land. So why is this program of interest? In return for following an approved CRP conservation plan, which improves environmental quality, participants benefit by receiving an annual rental payment and may qualify for cost share assistance for their grazing operation. So this program provides cost share assistance on needed practices and rental payments for conserving grazing lands according to the plan developed by NRCS. And this includes things like rotational grazing areas, for instance. Nationally, the minimum rental rate is $15 per acre, but the rental rates are based on 75% of the cash rent data from the National Agricultural Statistics Survey plus an incentive. So the rates will vary depending on your locality, and you will know the rental rate prior to enrollment to assist in your decision on implementing the practices. So offers will be ranked and most sensitive areas will be selected. Past ranking factors included current and future use, beginning socially disadvantaged or veteran farmers, maximizing grassland preservation, the vegetative cover, environmental factors, small scale operations and cost. The 2023 sign up just concluded and we do not have dates yet for 2024. Only offers that rank high enough are selected. So you can consult with NRCS or FSA regarding steps to maximize your offer. And one option, for instance, is to reduce the amount of rental rate accepted. So listed are some of the eligibility forms needed, and your local FSA office will assist you with filling in each of the forms. And it is helpful to be prepared for your first visit. Just some things to potentially bring with you would be proof of identity, a deed and plat for your land. And if it's a entity, either your corporate documents, LLC, where you've established LLCs and that kind of thing. So once you've provided all the personal information, you will then be enrolled in the system. Your property will be identified and delineated out from aerial photography and will be assigned a farm serial number. And this number is very important for participating in USDA programs, as well as state and county programs administered by USDA stakeholders. To stay abreast of FSA programs, it's great to receive emails by signing up for our Gov Delivery, our monthly newsletter, or the text message alerts relating to program announcements, sign up periods and deadlines. And I'll discuss that more on a later slide. So now you need to know how to contact your local Farm Service Agency or NRCS office. You can go to farmers.gov, click on Find Your Local Service Center, select your state and county, and then call the office for an appointment to meet up with us to discuss the needs for your farm. Other FSA programs can also be found at the farmers.gov website, but include farm loan programs such as direct or guaranteed loans, disaster programs such as insurance on non-insurable crops like fruits, vegetables, hemp, if not currently insurable, emergency programs when you have losses from natural disasters, conservation programs, price support programs, low interest loans for commodity storage and handling, and like the dairy safety net. So please take a look and see how we can help you be successful in farming. So if you want to stay connected to the Farm Service Agency and Natural Resources Conservation Services, you can sign up for our emails by going to the farmers.gov website, scrolling to the very bottom, enter your email address and hit subscribe. So you'll receive the email newsletter from the counties or states that you choose. And you can also receive text messages from your local county office. So please contact them for details on how to subscribe for the texting service. And then any questions?
All right, thank you so much, Melissa, for sharing the information about your FSA programs. Again, we welcome any questions in the chat, or if you would like to come off mute and ask them, please feel free. All right, looks like we have one question. Are the programs only applicable to private farms? Any available to farming operations on state-owned lands?
It is typically only private farms that we are doing our cost share programs on.
Great, thank you so much. Any other questions? All righty. Well, if that is it, then I will go ahead and pass it on to Kelly. I will go ahead and share your presentation and then we can get going.
While you're doing that, I can add to that last question in the chat about state-owned lands. Sometimes it depends on the grant funding available for the programs. We are not able to use our VAX program funding for cost share on state-owned lands, but some of the federal grants provided by a DEQ 319 grant for TMDLs may be an option for that type of project. All right, so I'm Kelly Snoddy. I'm the conservation specialist with the Peter Francisco Soil and Water Conservation District. My counties are Buckingham and Cumberland. There are soil and water districts. There are 47 across the state. So if you don't know your soil and water district, we encourage you to reach out to them and introduce yourself and see what they have available for you. We receive our grant funding through a partnership with the Department of Conservation and Recreation for our conservation programs. We partner quite frequently on most of our projects with the Farm Service Agency and the Natural Resource Conservation Service as well. So when Melissa mentioned the CREP program, that is something that a lot of your soil and water districts do participate in as a piggyback project. So you can go ahead and change over, Casey. The two programs I'm going to touch on today for you are our Virginia Agricultural Cost Share Program and our Virginia Conservation Assistance Program. They're two separate sources. One is agricultural based and the other is more urban residential focused. So our Virginia Agricultural Cost Share Program is provided for agricultural conservation practices to improve water quality. What we're looking for, what we've been talking about today, is things for riparian buffers. As Anne-Marie called them, the corridors of vegetation. So your definition of a buffer is something that lessens the impact of something. It prevents one thing from coming into contact with another. So we're talking about tree plantings, vegetation plantings, or just a fence to exclude your livestock from that water source. So those types of buffers are what we're creating with these practices. Some of the main practices that our agricultural cost share program provides buffer incentives for their livestock exclusion practices. So we help with cost share payments towards exclusion fencing from the water source, interior fencing to create rotational grazing and improve your grazing management. By removing them from that surface water, we also provide alternative water systems, which include a well, pipeline, and water troughs, so that they can rotate and drink in whichever pasture they're in at the time. These practices have varying rates of cost share available to them. It's a percentage rate for the state, and it depends on the choices that work for you and your management system. You can do a buffer width, which is the space between the bank of the water source and the fence that's being installed for exclusion, as minimum as 10 foot or as wide as 50 foot or greater. Depending on the width of that buffer, you could receive 60% cost share return up to 100% cost share return. And it's a 10 or a 15-year lifespan commitment. You're receiving grant funding from the state, and we're asking that by accepting this funding, you're keeping that project there to improve water quality for that lifespan of the practice. Unlike the CREP program, this is not a rental program. This is a one-time payment received for the installation of the components, and it is a reimbursable program. So when you would sign up for the cost share program, you are installing the components per the designs given to you by the Soil and Water District on your own dollar to begin with, and then you are reimbursed at the rate that's set. We have tree planting practices also that are offered with cost share, and those are for the area within that fence buffer. So we could partner with the James River Association and use their James River Buffer Program funding to plant trees within that fence area. You could partner with the CREP program to plant trees within that fenced area, or we have separate funding under the VAX program as well for planting trees within that area. So all these options are there for you to discuss and to determine which one fits you and your management plan better. These are all voluntary programs to improve water quality, so it is completely up to you as to which one you sign up for or not. We offer free technical assistance to anyone that's interested in our programs, which means you can call and make an appointment to schedule a field visit, and we can talk all options with you. You are not obligated to accept funding from any of our sources if you just like to talk about options that are available for you. This is a cost share program, so I'll just stress that definition. It is not always completely 100% covered out of pocket. We are sharing the costs with you to help improve water quality through the installation of these cost share programs. All right, Casey. The Virginia Conservation Assistance Program is a program that is designed for our urban stormwater issues. So areas that have poor erosion, poor drainage in a residential area versus an agricultural operation. These are practices. The picture that you see before you is a rain garden, that it was planted, and then the picture to the right is it doing its job during a rain event. So these are smaller projects such as rain gardens, permeable pavement versus asphalt, wildlife, butterfly meadows versus turf grass, rain collection cisterns, things that are going to help slow down the runoff, let the vegetation come back naturally, and reduce erosion in residential areas. This program is something that is offered through individual districts that have signed on with this grant. The grant has been obtained by our Association of Soil and Water Districts and has its own separate steering committee that you would apply for the grant funding. In Buckingham and Cumberland, we are very rural, so I will let you know that we have not actually done a VCAP application just yet. We've had a few field visits, but we haven't installed any rain gardens or done any rain collection cisterns just yet. But our sister soil and water districts in other more rural city areas have been using this program quite consistently, and it is something that is a very good addition to the things that your soil and water districts can offer you. All right, Casey. If you do not know who your soil and water district is that covers your county or your city, we have a directory on our Virginia Association of Soil and Water Conservation Districts page. You can go there, you can search for your county or city and find out who you can call to ask questions, to find out what your eligibility is for your programs, and other things that soil and water districts offer as well. Many soil and water districts offer education programs in the school system, opportunities for field days, opportunities to attend events, to set up a booth, to advertise what we have available for you. Some have internship availabilities for summer. Some have equipment rental programs like no-till drills or manure spreaders, things of that nature. We offer college scholarships for students going into a biology, environmental science, natural resources area of education. And some districts also offer separate grant funding opportunities for residential practices like a septic system pump out or repair program. So it's always good to reach out to your neighboring district, see who you have, what it is that they can offer for you, because they might have a program you haven't heard of. You'd be surprised how many times we've had a grant for years and someone calls and says, I didn't know you had this. So please give us a call. We're here to answer any questions that you have. All right.
All righty. Thank you so much, Kelly, for sharing information about your programs. Are there any questions that anyone has for Kelly? Again, you can go ahead and drop it in the chat box or come off mute and ask. I'll give it a few moments. All righty. Well, I will go ahead and share some information about programs that we have available on the consortium website. First, I'll drop a link to the website in the agenda, and then I'll go ahead and share my screen and show you how you can access information about our funding programs. So here is the link to the website. I'll go ahead and share my screen. Here we go. So this is the consortium website. This brings us to the home page. The way you go ahead and access our funding resources is by first going to the landowner resources tab right here. Then you will go ahead and click this option for funding programs. On this page, we have several resources for you. First is our Streamside program report tool, and I'll share a little video about that on how you access that tool and use it to find funding programs. Next, you can explore programs by focus area. That will take you to the bottom of this web page where you can click on the different tabs that point to different programs, and then you can click on those and it will take you to information about each of those programs. And we also have a tool that the Virginia Department of Forestry made that also connects you to funding programs throughout the state of Virginia. So first, I'll go ahead and share the Streamside program report tool video and show you how you can access that and use it to find programs that you are eligible for.
Hello, and welcome to a brief demonstration of the Streamside program reports tool. The objective of this tool is to provide landowners and restoration professionals with information on streamside restoration and relevant funding programs for any given parcel in the Upper or Middle James River watershed. This short video will demonstrate how to use this web-based tool. You can access the Streamside program report tool from the Upper and Middle James Riparian Consortium's webpage under the Programs tab. Click on the Streamside Program Report link to open up the tool. On the home screen, you'll see general information about the tool on the left-hand side dashboard. You can find out more about the consortium, partners, or FAQ for the tool by clicking on the buttons at the bottom of the dashboard. Go ahead and click the Get Started tab. You can either search for an address that you have in mind, similar to a Google Maps interface, or you can select your desired county. I'll select Albemarle, for example. Click Zoom in and select a parcel to navigate to your parcel of interest. Click on the property to select the parcel boundary outline. The dashboard on the left-hand side populates with information about the property you selected, including the watershed and the land cover composition. You'll also see summary information about how many acres of priority restoration area are on this property, which you can see in the map in orange along the stream. You'll also see information about the upland acres draining to those restoration areas, which are noted in the light pink outlined in purple on the map. In the second section of the dashboard, you can select your focus areas of interest from the list, including riparian forest buffers, agricultural infrastructure, stream bank stabilization, wildlife habitat, and buffer and land protection. I'll keep them all selected for now. In the third section, you can also select any of the working lands categories if they apply to the selected parcel. I'll check off agricultural production here just for an example. If at any point you want to start over or choose a different parcel, up at the top of the dashboard, you can click Start Over. Once you've made all your selections, click Generate My Custom Report. The selections that you make in the tool help inform the list of relevant funding programs that are populated on the report that comes out. It may take a few seconds to load, and go ahead and click Open Report. The first page of the report contains a similar map and property-specific information that you saw in the interactive map before. It also contains a section on water quality that describes the watershed and any nearby stream impairments to your property, which is located or indicated by the blue star. The following section contains the list of relevant funding programs for the focus areas and the working lands information that the user inputs. There are links and contact information for each of the programs to connect landowners with a professional that can answer any specific questions and help take advantage of the programs. There's also a section just for conservation easement organizations if the buffer and land protection option was selected. The next section has more information and relevant links for each of the focus areas that were selected. And the final page contains information about the partners that made this tool possible. You can download or print this report as a PDF by clicking either the download button or the print button in the top right-hand corner.
Alrighty. So that was a quick video about our Streamside Program Report tool. I see a question, where is this video available? It is a great tool. That is available on our consortium website. It was on that same funding tools page. I can go ahead and share my screen again to show you how to access that. So here we go. So if this is the homepage of the consortium, it's jamesriverconsortium.org. You go to landowner resources, funding programs, and that brings you to this page. You can scroll down a little bit. Here is that link that will take you directly to the Streamside Program Report tool. And here is where you can click to access that video. Okay, and we have other tools on this page as well. Again, we have the Explore Programs by Focus Area. And we can click on, say, CRP, which we went over today. If we click on that, it will bring us to a page that shares information about the tool. You can go to the program website for there, and then you can have your program contact, and it takes you to the website where you can access the contact information for that as well. And if we go back to this page, we can go over our last tool, which is a tool made by DOF, the Department of Forestry, similar to the Streamside Program Report tool. It takes you through how to access different funding programs. So let me make sure you can all see that. I'm going to share my screen one more time. Alrighty, so this is VOF's tool. You can first select your locality and say we want to go with one in the watershed, so we'll do Albemarle. Go ahead and check that. And then that changes the programs down here based on programs that are available in Albemarle. You can also select the basin, say we want just James River Basin. You can select the type of provider, and you can also select so it only shows up for that type of provider. So you can say uncheck an NGO or uncheck local, or you can make it only an NGO or only local. And then you can see down here, your results will change based on the provider type that you choose. You can also choose the client type. So let's go ahead and check everything again. You can choose for only farmers. You can choose for only large estate owners, only municipal lands, or you can select for multiple of these. And that again is also available on our consortium website. There is a link to that on the funding programs page. Any questions about that? Oh, and we have Caitlin Verdu. Thank you for the comment, Caitlin. That was Caitlin that was involved in making that tool. Any questions about any of the tools that we shared today, or any questions for any of the presenters that we had talk earlier? Alrighty, well, thank you all so much. That should bring us to the end of our webinar. This will be posted online, so you'll be able to access this again. And I'll send out some of the links that were included in the chat in this webinar, as well as some of the links that were included in the presenters' presentations. Thank you all so much. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.
Thanks, Casey.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Casey. Bye.
Thank you, Casey.
Bye. Thank you, presenters.
Bye.
Bye.